All right, my good friends, it is Sunday night, so this is Monday's content for you guys. So basically, this is just a brief kind of review for the test tomorrow. So I'm going to post the test on Tuesday and then give you a time limit to take it. So you'll have to have taken it by, I believe, like Wednesday. 9 o'clock is when it's totally due. It's going to be some type of Google form so that once you start it, you can't just exit out and stuff. So that's how we're going to do it. I have to play around a little bit on how to make it look good because it'll be kind of similar to the test we take in class with a lot of reading of sources. So I got to figure out a way to make it look um, to make it compatible to a Google form. But so I'll be posting that for Tuesday's assignment. So what I want to do now is just well, first of all, I hope you had a good weekend. Hopefully you're settling in here, and then you're getting ready for week 3 of what looks like a while. All right, so we'll just see what they have to say about when we will be back in session. But heard the presidents and I talk, and it looks like it's going to be a while. So keep the faith. Hopefully you found some good things to do over this past couple of weeks that can get you through these tough times. But thank you for working hard. I really do appreciate it. I miss like kind of the humor I can have with you guys in class, and just seeing you guys. I do miss that a lot, and I really appreciate you working hard. So 3 things I want to go over tonight. You have all of these. Unit 6 has been shared with you. The Wednesday class content up here is something that was shared with you last week, and that has some SAQ tidbits I want to go over. And this Quizlet I've shared with you as 50 terms. I want to go over that a little bit. So let's start first going back to this Wednesday's class content. And I'm going to try to make this less than like 15 minutes or so, because you can use the rest of the class time to study for the test tomorrow. So one thing, I was kind of looking over all of our SAQ answers from our past couple of homeworks. One thing, I was talking to another teacher, and they use this, and I thought that sounds pretty good. Maybe we could try it. So I did the another acronym, and it's SHE, which is Specific Historical Evidence. So within your short answer questions, where you want to ace your short answer questions, you want to answer the question, restate the prompt oftentimes, cite evidence from your source. Now, sometimes I'll show you the next couple of days when we prepare for the AP test. They might not even really give you a source. They might just say, explain the difference between Britain's imperial policy compared to the United States' imperial policy. And they might not give you anything. So we'll talk about what to do when they don't give you anything. You just have to go back in your knowledge. So cite evidence either from the source, or if they don't give you a source, then like your evidence is your specific historical evidence. But we're acting like there's like a reading or a picture here. So cite evidence from your source, and then bring in outside evidence to explain your reasoning. And your outside evidence is the SHE, specific historical evidence. So when you're answering a short answer question using the ACE method, you just have to kind of maybe go back and read it and say, is she in there anywhere? Can I find she? Can I find her in there? Can I find where I talked about the Ethiopian resistance, or can I find about a fact that I put about the Taiping rebellion? Is it in there? Check mark. Okay, move to the next. Move to the B prompt. So this is just an acronym, ACE, and then SHE, specific historical evidence. Just, is she in my answer? So hopefully the answer is always yes. Okay, so and I just kind of drive that home. Bring in some outside evidence. Just again, be expected to be able to compare and contrast. We looked at the map of South America compared to the map of Africa, and how drastically different that was. Okay, and you also have Asia, which is different than the other two. With China was different because they didn't really get conquered, but their economic policy kind of got conquered. So be able to compare and contrast. You can make anything compare. You can, if there's someone in the school that you think you're 100% opposite with, there's probably something that you can compare yourselves to, and so be prepared to have to compare unlike things. Okay. They also like to talk about causation. How did the scientific revolution lead to the industrial revolution? If I change this out and I just said, how did this would even be easier if I said, how did the industrial revolution lead? Okay, that'd be even easier one. How did the Industrial Revolution lead to the age of imperialism? They needed to go get stuff. And since they were superior in terms of their industry, it was easier for the Europeans to get stuff. Continuity. How has something remained the same? Okay. And then change over time. Oftentimes these will be paired together. It was called CCOT, continuity and change over time. So don't be surprised if you see a question either tomorrow or later on in this course where it says, compare how the United States, or not compare, explain the United States continuity over the 200-year history of the country. Explain how the United States changed over the 200-year history. So if you see a continuity paired up with a change over time, what they're going to be asking you is like, basically it's a compare and contrast. How did something continually stay the same, and how did something, the same exact thing, change over time? So those are just some phrases I want you to be familiar with, and don't forget this: societal, political, interaction, culture, economics, the SPICE method. So if you're struggling, like if you're taking this online test at the end of the year, not tomorrow's online test, but the AP test, and you're struggling and you see the timer is going fast on you, you can revert back to the SPICE. Okay, can I find some facts in there? And we'll talk about the SPICE a lot when we do our review. All right, so let's go. Let's look at some of these Quizlet terms here. Okay, I'm certainly not going to go through all these. They're pretty easy. What a settler colony is, what a colony, scramble for Africa. I just want to flip this over. The Berlin Conference has a good image here. This don't be surprised if you see this image here tomorrow. Meeting between 1884 and 1885, representatives of European nations agreed to colonize Africa. So notice what's missing: an African. Otto von Bismarck. He was a man that called Berlin Conference. He's also really, really important to know in your fact memory bank, is he basically got the country of Germany created. Congolese people, this is another great source straight from your book. This shows the brutality. How did they govern? Well, it looks like they governed with an absolute iron fist or sword, as these boys have had their hands chopped off for not making enough for the Belgians. King Leopold II was a king of Belgium, so he's an important guy to know. Spheres of influence. This is definitely an important one. Again, well, I should say again, there's no Asian in this picture, but there is. This shows that Japan got a seat at the table here. This is a representative from Japan. This is Queen Victoria. This is Otto von Bismarck. This is Tsar Nicholas, I believe, from Russia, and this is a French representative. And the pineapple haircut, that is from the Manchu dynasty. So sphere of influence. Like we said before, China is really different than like Africa, because China, they let them come in. They don't necessarily let them take over, but it's very humiliating what happens to the proud Chinese, they feel like. And that's what led to the Taiping Rebellion. Penal colony, No need to go over this. Aborigines people, these are the original people of Africa. It's important to know what like a resistance movement is. Most territories that are going to get colonized, there is some form of resistance movement. Some of them can be peaceful, like the ghost dance in the United States, where they're praying to get rid of the white people, or some of them can be really, really like violent and resistant. Ethiopia getting rid of the Italians. Dutch East India Company. This was a change, and it used to be the British just kind of let the British and the Dutch just kind of let their entrepreneurs run these territories in India, and it after the Sepoy Rebellion, we see Queen Victoria kind of take ownership for Great Britain is running the subcontinent of India. Manifest Destiny. This is another famous picture of Manifest Destiny here. This is Lady Liberty. As she said, I'm drawing a blank what the name of this figure is. I could pause it and figure it out, but I'm not going to. But she was, the United States was destined to rule from coast to coast. So that's an important one. And the light is shining on her. It's light to her east, and it's dark, and she's going to bring the light. She's going to enlighten the west of the country. The ghost dance, they were looking for communication with the dead. They were also praying to get rid of the white settlers. Cherokee people, Cherokee Nation was a Native American community. This is another good resistance movement to know. So again, I'm not going to go through all these. The Xhosa people were down in South Africa. Also, the Zulu people were down there. And I know I'm going fast because we've talked about this a lot. The Great Cattle Killing was another resistance movement. There's those people killed their own cattle because they believed the British had poisoned them, and not only did they kill their cattle, but they kind of created a famine in their own place, in their own territory. The Balkan Peninsula, we'll see the term nationalism spring up. Okay, so let's just look at this for a few times. This is a good read for like just previewing, getting really good. This is really good for short answer facts here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you a couple minutes to read the first 2 pages here. I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay, so the first page is all about like why imperialism got started, what was going on before imperialism, slavery ends, Europe needs raw materials. So this is just kind of this is what we would call this first page is context. Rationales for imperialism, you are going to see a big concept down here, social Darwinism. Make sure you understand this concept here, social Darwinism, that the Europeans feel that they're superior than the darker races, and because of that, they don't feel quite as bad when they destroy their culture, destroy their lands, destroy their social structure, because they're superior. They're justifying it, and they're going to enlighten them. It's the white man's burden. Okay, so social Darwinism is a term. White man's burden. In February 1899, British novelist Rudyard Kipling wrote a poem entitled The White Man's Burden, the United States and the Philippine Islands. Kipling urged the U.S. to take up the burden of the empire as Britain had in other European nations. We also learn about Edward Morrow's Black Man's Burden, and he talks about how really it was the black man that were being exploited, and they had the burden of putting their societies back together after the white man had come down and just decimated their society. So let's take a moment and let's read from pages where it says topic 2. Let's read 3 and 4 here for a minute. Okay, so at the end here, you see a lot of rebellions, resistance movements. So be familiar with some of these resistance movements that stood up to imperialism. But the big thing that we know now is that the reason why they're not so successful, these resistance movements are not successful, for like on a mass scale, like here and there they are successful, but the Europeans were industrialized. These other areas that they're going to, they are not industrialized. The Chinese even are not really industrialized, and Africa is not industrialized. So these rebellions, small scales they can work, but large scales they cannot stand up to the British, or what the Japanese called the American black ships, the huge war machines that they see. You do see a few new states being created during this age of imperialism. These are areas that evaded um, being colonized for a time being, like the Cherokee Nation in western or eastern United States, the Sokoto Caliphate in West Africa. This is really interesting. This is a Islamic state. We have not been talking about the Islamic states as being very prevalent right now, but this is one in West Africa called the Sokoto Caliphate, and they held on for a while. Eventually, the British will come down and take this over, and this will become Nigeria. Okay, and last but not least, let's just finish this out. Let's just read from topic 4 and 5 on down, and I'll ask you a few questions, and that'll be it. Okay, so this is the end of the lecture here. I added this on to your Unit 6 review. What the test format is going to be, it's going to be 20 multiple choice. You can get 3 wrong before being marked off. So, like, if you get a 17 out of 20, you've gotten 100%, 20 out of 20. You get an additional 2 free bonus questions by taking the Unit 6 practice quiz that's been shared with you on Google Forms. So you can start off with literally getting 5 wrong and still being at 100%. There's going to be 2 full SAQs, A, B, and C type of SAQs. It might be a picture, it might be a reading, and you have to answer 3 questions about a reading, or it might be neither. It could just be explain the economic imperialism of East Asia, something like that. Um, so be prepared for your SAQs. If you do not answer with a full paragraph for each one, I'm not grading it. I'm just going to send it back to you and say resubmit it when you think you're finished. Because if you send that something like that in without a full paragraph for A, B, or C, the grader is not going to grade it. So I don't want to be wasting our times here. So make sure you're turning in a full paragraph for each one. Make sure you're using the ACE method and you're including specific historical evidence. I'll post this test Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. It needs to be finished by Wednesday at 5 p.m. Good luck. I have to respond to emails all day, so send me an email and I'll get back to you if you need anything. Hope everything's going well, and I will talk to you guys later.